Okay, so hi, again, this is Janelle Duncan. I'm the procurement director for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. I apologize for all of the IT issues. But we're gonna get started now. So what's important is this is to talk about a change in the invoicing process. I've emailed several of you a contract addendum. Several of you have returned it, and I will continue trying to get all those emailed out in the next couple days to everybody. So the question is what's changing? Invoicing, receiving, and
Thank you for calling Select Pest Control. This is Lisa. May I help you?
oops, I need to mute her. So the invoicing, receiving, and dispute processes are changing. This is going to make the payment and dispute resolution process much more efficient. And what that means to you is it's going to be a lot easier for you to get paid. So this is exciting. And I was going to say with me, if anything, I have Cedric, who is our new Vice President of Finance and Administration. So y'all can thank him for assistance in changing this process. Did you want to say something? And he wants.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties that we had, but now we are on track, and Janelle is going to give you guys, walk you through the changes that we are making to make the vendor contractor journey a better journey for you all, so that we can make sure that everything is being processed and paid on time.
Okay, so let's go. So the biggest change is from now on, you're going to invoice as soon as your products are delivered or your services are complete. That's sort of the whole thing in a nutshell, but we're going to go through a lot more. Previously, we had you wait until they were received in Yardi. That slowed down the process, but now products delivered or services are complete, you can invoice as long as you have an approved purchase order in Yardi. If you don't have an approved purchase order in Yardi, you should not be working. So this is really exciting because you won't wait on CMHA receiving in Yardi to invoice. So for those of you who have been using Vendor Cafe in Yardi, when you go into invoice, there have been two tabs. They kind of look like little file folders in Vendor Cafe. One of them says receive, or one of them's approved POs, and one of them is received POs. Now there's just going to be one tab. So it'll just be approved POs and you can invoice against those. So keep in mind that you've got to invoice timely. There are performance standards about timely invoicing, and you have to wait until the work is complete to invoice. So what happens when you submit your invoice via Vendor Cafe? The invoices will enter a workflow. They'll go to centralized purchasing. So I know some of the vendors have worked a lot with Will McCabe and Luttrell and Hannah with the invoicing and POs in Yardi. So you will need to make sure that when you invoice, you're invoicing against the correct line item. So don't just pick a PO and invoice against it. You really need to invoice against what you actually completed the work for, the right line item. So centralized purchasing will make sure, or they will try to make sure you're invoicing against the correct line item. They'll also make sure that the invoice is contract compliant. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Invoices can be submitted in Vendor Cafe against an approved PO as soon as the work is completed. So the PO has to be approved. But like I said, you shouldn't be working without an approved PO. Invoices may be rejected. So if you decide to submit an invoice against any old PO instead of the correct line item and the correct PO, your invoice may be rejected. If you choose to ignore the contract and invoice without the detail that we request, your invoice may be rejected. If you decide to add additional charges that aren't authorized by the contract, your invoice may be rejected. So we want to go over some of those contract requirements so we can minimize those rejected invoices. Another thing that's big for you guys is we are going to limit disputes to 15 days. So once the work's completed, you submit your invoice. The user department, the property managers, whoever, will have 15 days to tell us if there's any dispute. So that means that they can no longer come back and say, I don't think they mowed 2 months ago. So the whole idea is to get the payments and disputes resolved quickly so we can keep things moving. You guys will get paid quicker and we will have more accurate financials, which is really good. So now what do we need to do? Your contract needs to be amended to incorporate the changes. So I have, like I said, I've sent emails directly to a lot of vendors and I will continue working through all of you. If you don't have anything by Monday, then let me know if I've missed you, if you've got a current contract. So now let's go through the invoice sections of your contracts. First item, and this should be in all of your contracts. There's a few changes in here, but we're gonna be pretty consistent. No PO, no work. If you don't have an approved PO, if you can't see it in Yardi, you shouldn't be working. The only exception is life and safety POs. Life and safety is if there's imminent threat or harm to a person or property, and those are just to abate the emergency. So it's a life and safety PO. Actually, you still will have a purchase order number. You may not see it in Yardi quite the same. Otherwise, if you're asked to do work without an approved PO that you can't see in Yardi, then contact me or contact Will McCabe in centralized purchasing. But don't work. Okay, so next, your invoice needs less than the PO. So if you have a purchase order for $1,000, then your invoice is going to be less than $1,000. If there is some sort of an issue that there was more work involved, that you needed more money on the purchase order, you would need to contact the property manager or whoever asked you to do the work. They need to put in a change order before you do that work. So basically, if the dollar amount's not approved in Yardi, don't go above what's approved in Yardi. If you do so, you do so at the risk of not being paid. That's not really a change, just reminding you. If you're asked to do that, again, you can contact Will or I. Next one, invoice through Vendor Cafe. So there may be a few exceptions, but when I say exceptions, I'm talking about like utilities. Probably if you're on this call, you're not an exception. You need to invoice through Vendor Cafe. So if you have issues with that, you can holler at us. I will tell you, we have a series of videos on our website that take you through the different steps of Vendor Cafe. We will be updating those with this change from the two little folders with approved POs and received POs to one folder with just the approved POs. But basically the invoicing is going to be the same. So it's kind of nice because you can watch those videos anytime, regardless of whether we're working or not, or you can track us down. I've heard people say that they watch them at 2 a.m. So you can watch those to see how to invoice through Vendor Cafe. If you need more help, I'm going to say email centralized purchasing. Next, details. So some of y'all have left out some of the details you're required to put on your invoices. So we are going to remind you now. We have to have the address of the property and the unit number when you're doing work on specific units, the date, the service. If your work is based on hourly fees, then we need your start and stop times, not just 40 hours for the week. That's not really what's required in your contract. I was gonna say, if you have questions, holler. If you're doing a whole lot of work for somebody and you agree to lower fees, then what's in your contract, that's okay. You cannot go higher though, and you can't add fees, like the infamous truck charges. This is talking a little bit more about the details that we need. And again, it's got the time spent on the property. So we do not want to pay you for time to go get lunch, go to Lowe's, go to Kohl's, go to Target, wherever else you go. The time that you're actually on site and working is what we'll pay you for. The one exception is there are union agreements that some unions require travel time for emergency work of 30 minutes. And this would obviously not apply like for set fee items such as vacancy prep, where it's $1,200 for one unit. Then you wouldn't be tracking your time. You would just have the one unit at that price. Or like if you're mowing 123 Main Street, then you've got a set fee for that. But otherwise arrival and departure times for the hourly stuff. Okay, so no overstaffing, no extra fees. So if you're mowing a 1 acre lot, you don't need 5 people. So you don't need to charge us for 5. Same thing with a clogged up toilet. You don't need 3 people probably. So don't charge us for lots of extra people that aren't actually doing the work. We do not allow trip charges. We don't allow service charges. So don't put those on your invoice. Any fees that you were potentially going to charge needed to be on your fee submission form you submitted with your response to our request for proposals or request for quotes. Okay, no backdating. So if you're going to invoice today, You're not gonna put September 1st or August 31st on your invoice to backdate it to try to speed up that 30-day payment. So put the date on it that you actually submitted if you've got a date on it. So submit the invoices timely. We ask that they be submitted within 2 weeks for services performed. There may be some departments for some services that may say once a month is okay. That's up to them to agree to that and to get Cedric to agree. As long as Cedric, our finance vice president, says okay, then that's fine. Okay, next. So there's a penalty if you don't submit your invoices timely. We're asking for them within 30 days. Once it gets beyond 30 days, there may be a performance deduction from the invoice. So once you get the services complete, get your invoice in. I don't know why you wouldn't. I'm sure you're busy and it's hard to take the time to invoice, but if you don't take the time to invoice, you can't get paid. So we need those invoices in. And I was gonna say, we have had contractors who suddenly remember invoices a year later. So don't do that, get them in timely. Next one, complete the work before invoicing. So we can't pay you if the work's not done. So centralized purchasing catches that you're invoicing before the work is done, then they can reject the invoice. So if you're doing janitorial work at one of our sites for September and you submit an invoice now, we know September is not over. So they can reject the invoice and then you can try again when September's over and then you get invoice. That makes sense so far? Like I say, I've got a couple live people, so I'm looking for them for their nods. Okay, so do the work right. Read your scope of work. That's always attachment A in all of our contracts. Make sure you're doing everything that you need to be doing so that we don't have performance standard deductions. It's possible that the property manager or other use department may say, well, they did the vacancy prep unit, but it was supposed to be done in 5 days and it took them 7. So that's a $25 a day deduction. So we may take that off of your invoice. Right now, we don't have a way to do that. So that would mean the invoice would go back to you as a rejection and you'd have to resubmit it with that deduction. We're working on changing that, but we're not there yet. Parts. So we reserve the right to invoice, to review your invoices for parts. So make sure you keep your receipts. Dispute. So we're giving our people 15 days to dispute. So once we get that invoice in, they've got 15 days to say, oh, they didn't do a good job or they didn't really do the work. So this, again, should speed up your payment. So that's exciting. Okay, so now what? So this means that you guys get to invoice quicker, which I think is exciting for you because you guys get paid quicker, which is good. And we also get disputes resolved quicker. Any questions? I know I went through that fast. Our live people in person here don't have any questions. Anybody on Zoom have questions?
Now, this is Shadette from RJS. I have a couple of questions. You keep referencing Yardi. Is that equivalent to Vendor Cafe?
Yeah. Yardi is sort of like the master program and Vendor Cafe is a part of it and it's all tied together. Sorry. We go into Yardi to see Vendor Cafe, so I just sort of group them all together.
Okay. And then is there a process for past due invoices? I understand that this process is for current invoices moving forward, but what about past due?
So past dues, you guys want me to have those sent to centralized purchasing to take a first whack, centralized purchasing and AP? Yeah. If you've already sent an invoice, then don't. Yeah, so if it's past due, then those would go back to accounts payable. Don't send another invoice because that confuses things. Send in a statement. You can send it to accounts payable. Like I say, we've got a new accounts payable person in charge, so we're really excited. Lots of changes here, so hopefully it'll go a lot smoother for you guys and you guys can focus on work and I can focus on giving you contracts and we don't have to worry about past dues and trying to invoice and receiving and all that stuff. And we had a couple questions from live people, so hold on.
I currently submit AIA submissions with certified payroll. I'm still, am I using this now instead?
So for contractors doing like the construction kind of work with the payrolls, those would still go through Stacia and construction. Did you mean, you meant payroll for construction, not,
The certified payrolls that I do?
Yeah,
for-
yeah. that process all stays the same.
So I'm not using this for that.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yeah, if you do construction, it's sort of like got an asterisk that those that stuff will go through the construction department when you're, 30% through or whatever, and you do your pay apps. That part stays the same. That's outside of this.
We're doing technology, just like the door access and campus, so we're not really construction in that sense.
Yeah, so you're not real, the payroll and stuff will still go to
Okay.
Stacia.
Okay.
The other invoicing, when it's not like a real, that sounds bad, when it's not a construction process that's bid through our REC department,
Mhm.
then those things, yes, those should be purchase orders in Yardi, those should be vendor cafe.
Okay.
So if you're not getting the purchase orders, then holler at Will and I, and we'll see what we can do for you. Yes, sir. One more
And-
question in person, sorry.
Yes. How would follow up, so I'm in both buckets, I'm in the bucket that she's in.
Okay.
On a project basis. How do we follow up on that, or what's the timing for payments from that bucket? Versus the Yardi,
So I'm gonna say for the construction,
correct?
that's different. I can't really talk, when it's paid by grants, there's like I know there's a 3-day HUD drawdown and all sorts of things. Those are just different rules. When it's not construction through the real estate construction department, then contracts are, we try to pay within approximately 30 days. And we cut checks usually, it used to always be Thursdays or Fridays, so that can kind of vary things a little bit.
Okay, and then from the life and safety side. We do a lot of life and safety, so
So life and safety, and I don't know if they can hear you, Will, from way back there, if you're gonna have to bounce up here. The life and safety centralized purchasing is doing some really nifty things that's helping a lot. Do you want to talk about that?
or
And do you want to go here? So if you're asked to do a life and safety, if there's not a PO specifically for that in vendor cafe,
there's a
centralized
PO.
purchasing does, what kind of work do you do?
HVAC,
Okay,
so
so
there's a PO,
yeah, that's,
but
there's,
it's, the whole unit needs to be replaced, so we're life and safety, we have to hurry up and get it done.
yeah, so do you want to talk about the life safety for HVAC and plumbing?
Will still.
Yeah, you got it. They can't hear you from way back there. I'm pretty darn sure. Sorry. So we've got somebody asking about the life safety. We have a lot of life safety with HVAC and plumbing. So there's special POs that Will with centralized purchasing does, and he's gonna explain that.
Okay, so your life safety POs will be provided to you like normal. You just won't be able to invoice until that PO is approved. So what we do is we provide the managers who are calling you with those numbers prior to the emergency even happening. So they're readily available on a list they can use. So they say, hey, Dawson Heating and Air, need you to go to this unit, here's the PO number. By the end of that day or 24 hours later, they're supposed to tell us that they sent you to a specific address, what the issue was and what the estimate was. We capture that information for a week's period of time. So once we get all that, then we'll send it through our workflow, the PO will be approved. So by the time you're invoicing for it, that PO will be approved and you'll be able to match your line item on that PO.
That's
So-
not happening timely.
Correct.
Today it's not.
Today it's not. That's why we're here now. That's what we're here, we're trying to get to now.
All right,
But it is very important that the information you put on your invoice is as detailed as possible, because we're asking the manager, don't just tell us you had an HVAC problem or a plumbing problem at this unit. We need to know more specifics from them. So we're typing that into the PO line. So we want what comes into the PO line to match what you're saying on your invoice. So when we see it, when the invoice comes in, we're gonna be the first ones checking. Yep, I remember that when that matches, everything goes over to AP matches up and it gets paid. So hopefully that'll reduce that time.
So I was gonna say, is Dawson one of the ones that's sending you as soon as they do the calls, like once a week or whatever, for those life safeties? Or
I
do you want them to do
Don't
that?
believe so, do you? No. So the quicker, so right now,
special email address I need, that I don't have?
That, well, we'll get them to you. It's CP. It's the normal one, centralized purchasing. We'll send it to you.
Not familiar.
We've got your email.
Oh, okay.
You wanna send that to them right now?
Is it
central
purchasing or centralized?
Central purchasing. So we'll get you that information, and we'll send that to everybody. So,
Okay.
yeah, so that was it.
Okay.
There might be questions in the chat area.
Yeah, I've got them all out here. One of them was,
Do you want to stay up here so you can talk?
Well, yeah.
Because if you get an
we
answer.
got chat.
Okay, so starting at the top of the chat, except for I can't get there from here, come on. Okay, accessing Yardi and Vendor Cafe. If you haven't received a Vendor Cafe invitation, then email Central Purchasing. And they can get that to you. Can you review life safety PO policies, sign receiver applicable to after-hour service request? So based on Will's explanation, do you understand the life and safety PO? Basically, they've got POs. We just don't know the amount for you to be able to invoice against it. We need you to communicate to central purchasing so they can add that line item. So just picture a PO and every emergency for Dawson Heating, he's going to add a line item. They went to unit 1, 2, 3. They went to unit 4, 5, 6. You tell them how much they can put it in there so you can invoice.
and what would be helpful, I was getting ready to say a minute ago, was we have a couple companies we're working with right now that have gotten really good at when their service tech goes out, within 24 hours, they're sending us a copy of what was going to be their invoice. That way we make sure that we're kind of attacking from both ends. We're waiting for the manager to tell us the information that they called you about, and then we're waiting for the person to tell us, this is what we did, and here's what we think it's going to be. So we're kind of getting ahead of the game to make sure it matches and becomes a smoother transition. A lot of your larger companies that may have a large staff of maintenance techs may be only collecting that information once a week or once a month. You know, like a Geiler, they were going for a month before they're collecting all their work orders. So they're not getting paid for 60 or 90 days. But now we've got them down to where when a person goes out, a maintenance tech goes out and does work, they're coming right back in the next day and they're sending us an email saying, this is what he did, this is what their charge is going to be. We update that PO immediately, and they're getting paid smoother and quicker. So the quicker we can get that information, you guys, the better.
You gotta make sure you click on your settings.
So for those of you with Vendor Cafe questions too, I sent a couple of you the answer. Hannah Rose or Johanna Rose at CINTIMHA.com. She's one of our gurus for that, for Vendor Cafe. You can call her, email us, and we'll help you with whatever you need to do. She's a real good contact for that.
We need to make sure that we send everybody through Vendor Cafe.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so Cedric just said we sending everybody through Vendor Cafe.
There were some more questions on there though.
I think I hit most of them.
Mm,
This is Julie with Seco Electric.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So I have a question about Vendor Cafe.
Okay.
I've been working in there and I cannot at times find the POs. And to give you an example, I have one that is 50800. The PMs have been using it for a while, and it's not in Vendor Cafe. So how do I ensure that I'm going to get paid when these POs are not in there? And these were from last week.
Okay, so
Can't turn it off.
that particular PO is a life safety PO. And we have not been told that it was used. So like I was saying a minute ago, until we get the information from the manager, we don't add that to the line on that PO. So you're not seeing it because as of right now, it's not an approved PO. When the switch is made, you're going to see that PO number in there as soon as it's an approved PO.
So
In this case,
And
we're
I
gonna-
understand that, but so are we supposed to ask if it's a life and safety PO when we're taking the work?
Yes,
And
you should ask
this
if it's an
is-
approved. Go
This
ahead.
was called in, I think, on Wednesday of last week. I would assume by now it would have already been provided to you so I could see it.
Well, in the
Because I'm in
current,
Vendor Cafe every day.
okay, but in the current system, the way it's set up until we make the switch, you won't see the PO until it's an approved PO,
So,
which we're switching in the next, the 6th.
yeah, it
Tomorrow.
should be switched tomorrow,
We're
but,
switching
but
tomorrow.
we're still with the life and safety. We still need you just to double check to communicate that to centralized purchasing when you do the work. And you can
Okay.
talk to Will, just because I know Seco Electric, you're gonna have those, and HVAC and plumbing are also big ones for the life safety emergencies. They're standard POs. They just need to add the line item for that one service call you did. Some of the companies are emailing central purchasing the next day or once a week and saying, these are all the calls we did. So they can get those line items in the purchase order. So we probably need you to work on that communication, right, Will?
Yeah. Anytime you get work on a life safety PO, if you can forward that to myself, the centralized purchasing emails, I think you've dealt with this before. That's Latrell Carson, myself, Will McCabe, and Hannah Rose. If you can send those to us and say you're not seeing the PO in there and you believe it's a life safety PO, we can find that and we'll let you know where the PO is. Again, the life safety POs, anytime you get called for life safety, you're not going to see the PO in the approved status probably for that entire week, because we're collecting all the emergencies for that vendor for that particular amp each week, and then we send it through. Every other PO should be coming in daily. It should be an approved PO before you use it.
Okay. I'll watch for it. And I have started working with central purchasing effective last week
Yeah.
when I
Great.
had a conversation with Hannah.
Yeah, exactly. So a good thing for you guys to be looking out for is if you're given work that's not life safety, you can immediately go into Yardi, into Vendor Cafe, and if it's not approved PO, you shouldn't be doing the work. That'll be your check. You can say, the manager can say PO 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you don't see it in Vendor Cafe, that means it's not approved. Outside of life safety, you shouldn't be doing the work.
Okay.
Just because you're with Seco Electric, in all likelihood, a lot of your stuff is gonna be life safety.
Probably a lot of yours are probably life safety as well. Mostly plumbing and most HVAC or emergencies.
Did you want to talk about?
Yeah, because I don't see a lot of my POs in here sometimes.
Centralized purchasing is your best friend.
All right. I will make sure I start communicating there better.
Okay, so as far as like contract labor, I know Bill Volker, you're on here. There may be some other companies on here too. Your POs you're going to see in there, and they're still going to be created by week ending. So if the PO is a month long, we're going to have the week ending on each line. So you'll have to match that up. That PO will be approved, and you should be able to match those up pretty easy. If you're invoicing by month, we do have a couple vendors we got to talk to because they're invoicing monthly on contract labor, and sometimes that month may end on a Tuesday and then they start invoicing the following week. That's going to have to change. We're going to have to invoice by the weeks, showing the exact weeks. So be on the lookout for that if that's what you do.
And so this is Bill. Just about the vendor cafe. Is there a way to get or getting sent like all of the locations with the managers and stuff? Because sometimes we'll get who needs to go to what location for a temporary help or whatever. But it would be easy if we could have like there used to be a Excel spreadsheet that had a contact list for every location that you guys have. Is there a way to get a recent copy of that?
Yes, we can send that out to you.
And if I understood correctly, there's no longer received and unreceived. It's going to be in one tab. And if they're in there, we're good.
Right, correct. If they're in there, you're good. If the PO's not in there, that means it's not approved. And especially in your case, Bill, you should have all yours should be approved before you're providing anybody. Or before their start date, I should say.
Okay. And so is this part of the new part? I know it's supposed to be going forward, but we're holding people accountable effective today, right?
Flips over tomorrow.
Okay.
The switch may have been flipped today, but our goal is to take effect tomorrow.
I'm just saying if I have to track stuff down, I have a day to do it.
Yeah. So hopefully there's still some backlog still from the invoice register that we have here. We're still working on some old stuff. So any old invoices you have prior to this change, you're still going to have to give us some time. My team and I were working through these with the managers to try to get them caught up.
Not a
So
problem.
this won't be an instant answer to previous previous issues. There may still be some time before we get those done, but going forward, hopefully everything from today on or tomorrow on will be much smoother for you.
Not a problem. Thank you.
All right.
Like I say, Bill, you're a good example of the one trick of making sure that you invoice against the correct line item. So just make sure you invoice
Yeah.
against the right week. Like
And
they're,
this is
your PO will have like the amount like for each week. For like, several weeks for a month, just make sure that you invoice against the right week.
Not a problem.
Any more questions?
9 chat questions
Oh,
probably.
man.
Can we get a number, PO number at the same time as an order is placed?
You shouldn't be working without the PO. So yes, you should be able to get the PO amount, the number when the order is placed.
Yeah, that's right here. So is that a bell? Do you ask that question of, can we get the PO at the same time as the orders were placed? As placed, they should be giving you a PO, but it should only be an approved PO that you get. Looks like it is the same numeric.
Another question is, will life and safety purchase orders have the same numeric nomenclature as non-life and safety purchase orders? Yes, absolutely.
All the lines on a life safety PO are going to have life safety in that as well. We always write out life safety.
Will the changes apply to current open POs that have been partially received on? I would say yes. My guess is yes.
Will this apply to purchase orders that are currently in system as partially received?
Yes.
Yes, for that. The PO amount increase, the authorizing agent, if you have a need to talk to the manager who's requesting the PO or sent you the work, if you're having to increase the amount on the PO, they are the authorizing agent. They have to turn around and request that from us, being centralized purchasing, to increase the PO. So they cannot give you a verbal. They cannot call up and say, hey, that $500 PO, go ahead and do $800 worth of work on it until that is approved in the system. And that as well will be in Vendor Cafe. So do not take a verbal okay as the okay to pass or just pass that PO amount.
Life and safety is an exception to that?
Yes, life and safety is the only exception because we don't know what we're running into. Yeah, yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
life and safety is exception to that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
so
want to make sure.
how do
long
we
does that
verify?
take?
Like I said, we've got more questions. Hold on a second. How do we verify Touchstone PO numbers? Those are the same.
We'll send that list as well for TPS individuals. We'll send that list along with the asset management side of it.
This is a question for Cedric. Payment's going to be issued 30 days from the invoice date or 30 days from the time that the managers got there, up to 15 days to dispute. Are we still saying approximately 30 days from the date that they invoice?
It is approximately 30 days from the date of the invoice because our clock starts when it's posted. So when they post it in and it comes through correctly and it's not rejected, that's when the clock starts, not on the invoice date, right? Because you can have an invoice date or 29 days ago, but we received it today because of different issues, right? And we can't go with the invoice date. We have to go with the date that we receive it. That's when the clock starts.
Did y'all hear that?
No.
It starts from the day that the invoice is posted when it comes in. As long as it's posted and everything is correct, that's when the clock will start for us for the 30 days, approximate 30 days.
But keep in mind that the clock gets turned off if it's rejected for any reason, and then the clock will restart when we get a properly submitted correct invoice.
There was one on here from Charlene. You said you may have missed the response, but I don't know what question you were referring to.
Will the recording be shared with us?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even see that. That's up to you.
Yeah, I will try to post this to the website. I'll be working with the IT department that I've harassed all day. Or I've been harassing since 12:30 trying to get on. There were questions on Vendor Cafe. And I was gonna say, Hannah, if you're on and you want to screen share, let me know because you're probably better at this than me. If you go to our website, I'm pretty sure it's under business opportunities. I'm trying to do a screen share. Vendor assistance. Am I
You're
not
doing great, Janelle.
right here?
Yep.
Vendor assistance in doing business with CMHA. We've added some things to this, so this is kind of exciting. So we have the old preparing your solicitation response. And those are the ones I recorded when we got shut down with COVID. How to do business with CMHA is new, and that's by Ashley Clericus, our assistant director. Vendor Cafe training videos. Most of this is still good, except for that 2 tabs that you're going to see in Vendor Cafe for the received and not yet received POs. But other than that, look at these videos before you holler with questions. So anyhow, we've got several things on here that I think will help you with your proposals. Do we have any more questions?
I have one question. Hi, this is Robin with Colossal. Good afternoon. Hey, question. Once the when we're in Vendor Cafe and once we see where it says payment pending, which means it's been approved, and it says payment pending, how long from there do you think before we'll actually receive payment once it's in the payment pending status?
Can you address that, Cedric?
Yes.
Do you want to come up here so they can hear you? Sorry.
So the payment pending status on Vendor Cafe, that just goes to show you that your invoice has been processed through and everything is okay and it's been accepted. So what's just remaining is for AP to process it. You will be able to see when that status changed. And that's why we say we're going to make the payments approximately 30 days, right? So when that status changed to payment pending, should be your signal in terms of, okay, if it's gonna take in 30 days, I'm going to get my payment on this one. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, once it's in that status, you're saying maybe about a week or so.
Yes.
And then,
Okay, cool.
so we had problems with checks being lost for a while. So wait until you're like 40, 45 days out. And if you don't see the check, then I would direct you to contact AP. Because that's something centralized purchasing and procurement really can't do anything. AP can tell you if the check's actually been mailed out and when it's been mailed out, and they can cancel checks and reissue them.
And I'm signed up for direct deposit. I missed the first part of the meeting. Has that changed?
No, so for direct
Okay.
deposit, nothing has changed. You'll still get your remittance as you're getting those.
Okay, great.
And that's a good question. So one of the things that we're also doing down the line, not right now, we are probably going to be working to convert, for the most part, folks to direct deposit so that we're not running into these check issues, right?
Yeah,
When we
that's
run,
great.
for folks that are on checks today, there's a lot of advantages of utilizing direct deposit. One,
Yeah.
checks don't get lost in the mail. Two, you get an email notifying you that there's something that has been deposited to your account. And
Yes.
when you open that, it also gives you the remittance advice showing you what's being paid, and it's quicker.
Yes, I love it. Thank
Wait,
you.
how do you sign up for direct deposit?
You send us for now, if you're on check and you want to sign up for direct deposit, since we haven't started the campaign ourselves internally, what you do is you send us a letter on your letterhead, and someone will contact you to make sure it's the correct change. So we have controls that we have to go through. But once we get that, then we will convert you. And when you're converted, you'll be notified that now your payments will start coming through as direct deposits.
Okay. Send it to central purchasing or account payable.
You send that through accounts payable.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, we do have to, like Cedric was saying, we do have to do some verifications that it's really you asking for direct deposit. We get crazy emails every so often with people wanting to redirect payments, that we have to do a lot of verification and make sure it's not some sort of
Right.
spam.
Got it. Got it.
Any more questions?
Hey, Janelle, can I show them something while I've got everybody on the call?
Fire away.
I've gotten a couple emails just while we've had this meeting of people trying to get other individuals in their companies added to their Vendor Cafe account. I only have the ability to add like the main user or in one other one. We can't add a bunch from our end, but you guys can add it from your end. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, so in your Vendor Cafe dashboard, when you get logged in, if you go to your vendor profile and click contact, This is going to show everybody who's a contact who has an account with your vendor cafe. There's a button, and I need to move this. There's a button right here, add contact. So you can add a contact and choose like their level of access. So if you want them to only be read only, you can make it read only have access to purchase orders. You could choose all of these different levels on your own, as opposed if you reach out to me, I can't add anybody except for like one to two contacts total. So ideally you have somebody already logged in that can add an additional contact. If you don't have a login at all, please reach out to me. I'll make sure that you've gotten an invite and that it's to the correct email. But if you haven't, or if you already have a login, please add your own contacts. Does anybody have any questions about that or Vendor Cafe while I'm in it? Okay. That was all I had.
Thanks, Hannah.
I'm gonna say, and the question about the direct deposit, Latrell is gonna put in accounts payable email address. So we're gonna ask you to, after tomorrow, we'll crack down. Invoices need to go through Vendor Cafe, not to accounts payable. Cedric is nodding, so we'll ask Cedric about just sending them back to you and saying, Vendor Cafe, really, please.
Oh, hello?
Yeah.
This is Bruce from the ground up.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? Recently, my computer had went down, so I have been invoicing, dropping them in the finance box, but my computer is back up, so should I go on Vendors Cafe and resubmit them?
You don't want invoices resubmitted, do you? Cedric is saying no. Once you submit an invoice, don't just keep resubmitting them. It's messy.
It's been about 30 days.
Yeah, so send a statement to accounts payable, and then if they're missing invoices, they'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions? And I'm really sorry that we had so many technical issues. But thanks for your patience. Oh, 6 new messages. Okay. Okay, are there questions that I'm not seeing that I missed, do we think? Okay, so Will's answering stuff in chat, so if you're not seeing me answer stuff, hopefully Will's answering. Anything we're missing? Okay, now the people in here need to make sure that I do the recording right so that I save it and I can post it to the website. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your patience. Any last questions?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.